Welcome into the Arena. This is the Arena Ablaze podcast, where our goal is to inspire men through conversation, through witness, to join us in passing through the forge of Mary, where her Holy Spirit, her spouse, the Holy Spirit, can come, melt down our hearts, recreate us, make us worthy to wield the most powerful sword the world will ever know, which is the holy face of Jesus, and to engage in the spiritual battle that rages all around us. I'm your willing host, Marco Sandoval. I'm joined, as always, by my fellow son of muck, Todd Powers. How are you doing today, Todd?
I'm good, thank you.
Peace.
Marco, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm in the spiritual battle.
Yes. It's been a rough week.
Dealing with the effects of it. Today is the feast day of St. Maximilian Kolbe, which is one of my most favorite saints. Very near and dear to the 33-day consecration. I'm actually wearing my Lord's socks today. Luckily, I didn't really put them on purpose, but I am the Immaculate Heart. Comes from that.
You're living to fight another day.
Living to fight another day.
What we're called to do.
Exactly. Today we're joined by Will Durant. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing great.
Will.
I'm wearing my red as well for St. Maximilian Kolbe.
There you go. I love it.
Before the introduction, I have to tell everybody how excited I am to have Will on here.
Yeah.
Even though we've never
I'm
met.
thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here.
I don't get excited about much, do I?
I'm
No.
extremely excited. Will's one of my favorite people. I love watching his life. I've been up close, and then just watching his life from afar and all that he's doing it's just fascinating. So before we get started here, if you find value in this conversation, please make sure you like, subscribe, drop us a comment. If you have questions for us, questions for our guests, please leave that. We feed on your comments so we can take these conversations in a direction that's most beneficial for you all. Our true algorithm's the Holy Spirit. So we begin by always renewing our total consecration to Jesus through Mary, that we may do everything with, in, through, and for Mary as her instrument, so that she can lead us to more perfectly do everything with, in, through, and for Jesus.
I, Todd
Marco
Powers,
Sandoval,
a repentant sinner, renew and ratify today in your hands, O Immaculate Mother, the vows of my baptism. I renounce Satan and resolve to follow Jesus Christ even more closely than before. Mary, I give you my heart. Please set it on fire with love for Jesus. Make it always attentive to his burning thirst for love and for souls. Keep my heart in your most pure heart, that I may love Jesus and the members of his body with your own perfect love. Mary, I entrust myself totally to you, my body and soul, my goods, both interior and exterior, and even the value of all my good actions. Please make of me, of all that I am and have, whatever most pleases you. Let me be a fit instrument in your immaculate and merciful hands for bringing the greatest possible glory to God. If I fall, please lead me back to Jesus. Wash me in the blood and water that flow from his pierced side, and help me never to lose my trust in the fountain of love and mercy. With you, O Immaculate Mother, you who always do the will of God, I unite myself to the perfect consecration of Jesus as he offers himself in the Spirit to the Father for the life of the world. Amen.
So today we're with Will Durant, husband and father of 7, soon to be 8. He's 33.
8 means a full quiver in the Bible?
Full quiver. I get told that. Yeah, full quiver.
He's 33 years old. He was raised near Cheney, a farming community near Cheney. He started working on the farm at 14 years old. He graduated from Newman University and Wichita State University with degrees in education and a master's degree in educational leadership. He met and married his wife, Katie, while he was at Newman. He's taught in both public and private schools for the past 11 years, and he currently serves as the principal of a private liberal arts school, St. Pope John Paul II Independent School. Always put the Independent Catholic School.
Independent Catholic. That's right.
Welcome in, Will.
Thank you. Thank you for
Welcome.
inviting me to be here.
You're very welcome. We were really excited to have you.
Well, I just want to kind of start the conversation always with just kind of the genesis of Will Durant. We kind of went through your where you're from, but just
Yeah.
kind of tell us about kind
Yeah,
of
did you always want to have a big family?
That's a funny question, because when my wife and I got married, I was not Catholic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a convert, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But I was like, nope, I want to have 3 kids. My wife's like, nope, I want to have 4 kids or 5 kids. And I'm like, okay, we'll settle on 4. And then we get married and enter down that road, and the Lord just keeps revealing over and
Mhm.
over and over how we can further our trust in Him, and just the blessing that each one of our children have come to us. And so every moment, when we consider having another one, the most recent story with our 8th, the Lord telling my wife, "Do you trust me? Do you trust me?" And here we are with soon to be 8 children. And back then I was only 3, right? Only 3 children, and wasn't even Catholic at that time. So, yeah. I would say my story kind of unfolds a little bit just with the really firm foundation of my family, the very Christian foundation. My father growing up was a non-denominational pastor, just Protestant pastor. So we definitely lived out our whole life as a ministry, pouring out into people, not expecting anything in return, but pouring into people the love that Christ has for them. And so that's being modeled, imitation, how one of the ways in which we learn, being modeled for me as a child, going all the way up, until I left the house to go to Newman. And the funny thing there, when I went to Newman, I can remember telling my parents I was not going to marry a Catholic girl. And lo and behold, the Lord's sitting here laughing at me like, you think you have it in control, but buddy, you just wait. And yep, met my wife while we were both in college, both pursuing a degree in education, both had scholarships to sing there at the college. And so we ended up having every single one of our classes together for one of the semesters. And that's really where our friendship first enkindled, and then leading that into dating, right, with the purpose and intent of a vocation of marriage. And I'd say that's something for both of us. When we thought about dating, it was for a purpose of marriage, right? And from that, we really jumped into it as young college kids, getting married in college, right?
Was there any hesitation with her being Catholic with your predetermined opinion?
No hesitation. We had some frank conversations.
You saw holiness in her. You saw the
absolutely.
Christian faith
Absolutely.
being exercised in her life.
And she would say as well that she doesn't have one of those deep conversion stories because she was raised cradle Catholic. And so she never felt like she lost her faith. So she was exactly who I was praying to for the Lord when I was, praying for that future spouse of mine. I wanted someone who knew their faith and knew who Christ was and was willing to raise our children in that. So with that came deep conversations at the time of me not being Catholic and raising our kids Catholic. And, I look back as the Lord had me in a specific place to put people in front of me at a specific time to slowly reveal to me, because it was, I was going to Mass with her. We were singing in the choir for Mass, but it wasn't necessarily something that I was like super adamant about at that time. And then let's fast forward a couple years into our marriage, right, where we are living out this Catholic faith. I was teaching at a Catholic school, surrounded by great people, definitely bringing to light something new and kindled within me about my own faith, right? And I had just completed 2 years of master classes once a week, gone from the household. We had 3 kids at that time, working on my master's. And
Was this at Newman?
My master's was at WSU.
Okay.
Okay. And so I would leave school from teaching, and I would go, and every Monday night had class from 6 to 9, 6
That's
to 10
so hard.
PM. It was hard on especially a young family.
Any writing, research,
Yes,
real school
Oh yeah.
with 3 kids.
With 3 kids, real school, real research.
You earned it.
And a big part of that's because I have that rock of a spouse that I have at home that supports me in that, right? And then, I told the Lord I had no intention of going in administration. I wanted to pursue that degree. Comes with higher pay over a longer period of time. If I do it earlier, it helps out. That was definitely a money thing at the time. And again, change of mindset now, and I'll talk about that. But going to school full time with 3 children at home, it was tough, right? And so I told the Lord, I was like, there's no way I'm going to go through another year of RCIA classes, going through, I was open to the idea of converting and becoming Catholic, officially. What everybody tells me is I was already Catholic and I just didn't know it yet. Okay. So everybody told me that. Sister Connie, she told me that.
She was instrumental in my wife's conversion too.
She does. And that's why I mentioned her, because she's lovely lady.
Was there a specific moment, scripture passage, theology, something that you looked at obviously that said, yes, this is the true faith?
I go back to what I tell people is growing up Christian, there's truths to how I was raised, but there's a fullness of truth found in the Catholic Church that isn't anywhere else. And I see it in the beauty that our churches in, and not to put down any Protestant church here whatsoever, but there's
some of the most faithful Christian practicing human beings in my life are Christian Protestants.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes. And what they are lacking to that fullness is that beauty within the tradition of the church that they don't even know they don't have. And so for me, as I was, teaching in a Catholic school and encountering Catholics every day, because the Catholic Church here and the Catholic diocese, wonderful teachers and instructors who are devoted to their faith, there is that piece of beauty to the tradition and understanding the purpose of that tradition that I lacked growing up because I didn't know that. I had no idea. And so that conversion, just that exposure and the Lord pondering on my heart over and over. And I told the Lord, I was like, I'm open to becoming Catholic, but I cannot go for a whole another year. This be a third year of being, away from home on a weeknight over and over again from my family, that I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
So you took the test?
I took, actually I got a call and an invitation. That was pretty much right before Easter. It was hey, Will, you want to become Catholic? I'm like, yeah, let's meet and talk about this. And that was it, right? I mean, so from what every bit of my just formation has been learning on the go. I'm kind of a jump in, let's find out how this goes, because it's through that experience that we really learn. We can study and we can look at the page and we can know the definitions, all these things, but until we experience it in a way, it really has that impact of our formation, right? So from that point, it was like, yeah. Now, even then, from that point, this was 2019, so I still consider myself a baby Catholic.
Right.
And there is so much that I have grown in my own understanding about the beauty of the Catholic Church that I continue to want to learn and grow in. And so, for an example, I can remember being at a Catholic school, and it wasn't till I had actually left that Catholic school that I learned of Marian chants, Ave Regina, and the chants of our church, the process of prime of morning prayer, right? Their traditional orders. And so it's been, even from when I left Catholic school, not Catholic teaching, Catholic school, I've still grown. And you mentioned, Marco, that, these devotions that we have, that the church has and supports. Even our first Marian consecration I did as a year one principal with our Catholic teachers within my school here. And that's something I never was exposed to anywhere else either. And so it's like that Marian devotion, that had a significant impact on our first year. I give a testament to her and her guiding us through our first year as a school, which we can talk about. But then and I'll share this story too, just the devotion to St. Joseph. We did a consecration to St. Joseph and the impacts of that consecration. So these are things that I learned after leaving teaching within a Catholic school setting. I was in public school at that time teaching, and I was just like, there's so much here. So it's just an affirmation of the beauty that the Catholic Church holds. But again, I still go back to my upbringing. My parents, still Protestant, very supportive. My siblings, very supportive, that they have truths there, but it's not quite the fullness of the truth yet.
So you learned the love of Jesus in your early Christian formation, and you overlaid the orthodoxy of the Catholic faith on top of that. And the struggle that I had with my kids is they didn't have the original foundational love of Christ, and their Catholic school upbringing taught them, learn this prayer, do this prayer, say this, all all the things, and then you get a grade on it. And you know what was missing? The foundational love of Christ and the mercy that our Lord impresses upon humanity. And it's beautiful to see that come out of your home. What that says when I reflect on my own life is I did a poor job myself as their father. I was a meathead Sunday-going Catholic that was going to go to hell if I didn't figure things out. And it's so necessary to have that formation and that love, and then you overlay it with the traditions and the rules and the don'ts and the do's, and it creates a beauty that you're manifesting with your family.
And that's something the Protestants, they have that natural personal relationship that they start with.
Yes.
Whereas the Catholics start with their tradition and the sacrament, right? And so, yes.
And the rules.
Correct. Oh, absolutely. And so I think that played a major role in my own formation and my own conversion of saying, hey, yeah, absolutely, I want to join the church in Easter. And it was that invitation, right? What invitations are we giving to others in our lives on a daily basis?
I love that you brought up the 33 days. I had that same experience going through it. There's so much here. The apparitions really touched me, and it just brings the imaginative piece into it for me, because imagining and what they experienced and what they saw. And I'm interested in like the seed of education for you, because I feel like imagination is a big piece of it. I mean, the first time I came in contact with you was through my son, and he was a part of a play that they were doing at the school, and he was really into it. He was excited about it, and he's not always moved to do stuff. And I'm like, what is he doing? Why is he wanting to build all this stuff?
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, like that seed of you wanting to be an educator, because just in this conversation already, you can just see the energy that you have. And I saw that early on with you with the kids. So you have a love of educating kids. And then you kind of talked about the farm work that you had done. So I'm just curious where that seed of educating other souls kind of came from. And
yeah, I do have a passion for education. That's why I'm here.
For learning, is there a difference between learning and education? Because from what I hear from you is you love to teach a love of learning.
That's it. I love to teach.
And if a child has a love of learning, they will become educated.
If they don't love it, then they have no interest in it, and it's not gonna penetrate them, right? And so, I tell parents this: they're not gonna love everything that we do, right? But I want them to find something that they do love, and how can. And I've seen the fruits of that too, of just over the past 4 years of the foundation of our school. But even going back to answer your question, I was involved when I was at Newman. I was involved in the choir, right? But I also was heavily involved in the theater. That was my day job. I worked to build all the sets and do all the lighting and do all the sound. And so at my time at the Catholic school, where I had the privilege of teaching your son, your oldest, I want to say, was he on the stage crew side of things? Yeah, he was one of my stage crew kiddos. And there's so much to be taught through the doing of these things. And you mentioned that imagination, like just fostering that imagination gives them time to really concentrate on something, right? It's something that takes time. Looking out the window to daydream, they're thinking about something. What are they thinking about, And let's give them time to think that, because it's through that concentration, which is a good habit to form, in that imagination, this leads into contemplation, bigger ideas. What is our purpose, right? What did God create me to do? What did God create you to do? How is this relationship that I have with the Lord? How can it go to others, right? And so going back to the farm work that I talked about growing up, working on the farm teaches somebody a lot. Work ethic. We as individuals created by God, if we go back to Adam and Eve, where were they created? They were created to be in the garden, to work. And so there's also a relationship to man, the nature of man and work, that has been misconstrued and taken apart from what the original creation was. So good, healthy work, especially for young men at an early age, what does that teach them in habit formation and character formation, right? And so that's something, just me working on a farm, hot, dirty, hard work, that I still go back and cut wheat for the farmers.
Did you work with living things that, like mammals, or were they living things like wheat and crops?
Both.
So your reflection on your hard work was you watch things go from little to big, harvest.
Yep. And on both ends of it, from the wheat that we'd be cutting to sowing to the cows that you get kicked by, but we raise them up and we haul them to the butcher store, right? It's just beginning to end. And this is something I'm passionate in terms of education. Kids need to see a beginning to end. Okay, we start them at a very young age learning simple parts of speech, beginning to the grammar of dissecting a sentence to then the end of the writing and the speaking, right? On the same note, when our kids start to grow plants at the school, they start with a seed, beginning, we grow it, we see it, we watch it to go from a little seed to 2 feet tall, we sell it, we keep some, and we watch the produce, the fruit come from that.
Do you propagate any of those plants?
We do. Oh yeah, we do. And so even with the chickens, we hatch chickens at the school. They see the whole process. They see them hatch.
It's glorious.
It's amazing. And their curiosity, going back to the imagination that really got your son into the theater side of things at a middle school age level, that imagination, that experience is what helps them flourish as young people, that give them the interests, right? And then it is our job to work with, as an educator, to work with parents, because parents are the primary educators. And I say that over and over again. I'm here to aid the parent, to be the school being an extension of the home, not taking the place of the home. And as teachers, not taking the place of the parent, but an extension of the parent, right? And if we can really have that good, solid foundation of relationship with parents, school with families, that we give these children these experiences from beginning to end, evoking imagination, character formation, habits, aptitudes, right? We're giving something that they will have a love for. But again, remember, they don't love everything. When we're out there picking weeds when it's 105 degrees outside, they're not loving it. But what does that teach them? Perseverance, a service of heart, we're doing this for somebody else. Oh, the playground need weeded for those kindergartners to play on it. We're doing it for the kindergartners, right? And so those experiences of my childhood, with my parents, into my time in the university and then finding, my wife, to then my time even teaching Catholic school, it's been something I've always been passionate about, of working with children, because they're hungry. They're hungry for truth. They are great at questioning things. And, in education, a traditional education, that what we call grammar stage of learning, the youngers, when they get to that logic level of learning, they are questioning everything. So if you wonder why your teenager is snapping back at you with a snarky question, it is developmentally like they're going through this logic stage. Now let's train them to do that appropriately, right? Of what is respectful, what's the intent of your question. And it's a deeper desire to know. To know what? To know, to love, serve God, right? I mean, that He's at the root of it. They don't know that, right? But how do we get to that point? And it's through these experiences of my own that I bring to the children that I work with.
Perfect. I want to get back to Will Durant, the man, because I don't know that everyone really knows how you got to this place. So as I was saying, I had met you through that.
Yes.
And was surprised, but always knew my son, very smart. I think got like a 32 on his ACT, but he's very active. He was always listening, but spinning around with action figures in his hand. He's not a sit in his desk type. So I'm like, this is interesting. He's got my son's attention. And then the next time I remember was the Blue Ribbon School at Magdalene.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just curious about that, because a lot of that was kind of going on in the background, and I didn't at the time really realize that you were spearheading that. So just maybe talk about that experience, of how that was like kind of something that was a national honor that you brought to the schools. So.
And describe the honor, like from a percentage of school standpoint, and what it means, please.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that was a great moment to be a part of that school, a great part of my own experience, again, with being within that Catholic school, is part of that conversion story that I just shared, right? great people involved. And so while I was working on my master's at WSU for administration, I was having to do so many mentor hours, had a wonderful mentor at Magdalene. And that was one of the things that was given to me as kind of an administrator in training, was this application for this National Blue Ribbon Award. And what is it? Well, they only choose one private school out of the state to receive that award.
The entire state of Kansas. Johnson County, Wyandotte County, all the Kansas City schools.
Correct. Yep. One private, because the private school sector is chosen a little bit differently than the public school sector. So one private.
And there's a lot of good private schools.
A lot of good private schools. And it was, this application was supposed to be a reflection of everything that the school was doing. Okay, so I just had in that respect, I just had a small role of putting it together. Now, a small role, it was when the application starts with a certain amount of labor work laws because of the amount of work it takes to put it together. It was intensive, but I had a lot of great team members that had the information that it was just compiling and a lot of writing. So this document ended up being about 40 pages, reflection of the school, of its mission, of how it met the standard in which the state of Kansas and the national level was wanting to see of how we excelled as a school, right? And so I did have the honor of putting that together, a lot of rewrites. And as I said, my mentor, she guided us through it. And the Catholic Schools Office was thrilled to help us as well when we got into any hiccups. But through that, I was able to highlight what made the school exemplary. And it was the one private school that was selected for that year. And so we did get to travel. Myself and the principal and the pastor and the superintendent got to travel to Washington, D.C., to receive that honor for the school. And so I chuckle a little bit because my own understanding of education and school testing has since changed, being definitely in the Catholic class school renewal. And so I do chuckle a little bit because, here I was writing this big articulate document that really focused on test scores. And since then, I've had my own conversion of education, but it was still an honor to be part of. And so that's where, I was spearheading that from the backside as just a young, fairly new teacher at the time, new to administration at the time. And then lo and behold, we were chosen and got to receive that honor and award for the school. And then we celebrated as a school community that honor.
As parents.
Congratulations.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you.
As parents, I just remember thinking, wow, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, we're blue ribbon. What is that? And then kind of like the more you see, you're just like, oh, that's really exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see people that are behind it. And I'm like, this Will Durant guy, he's like a rocket ship to the moon. What's going on here? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then kind of the next time that I, really took notice of you, I get an email saying Will Durant is leaving the school. And I was shocked. I'm like, this guy's a rocket ship to the moon as far as, as from a parent perspective. So I didn't quite understand. And COVID was going on, and there was just a lot of turmoil about how we were going to respond to all that. And then we kind of get that notice there too. So I just a moment about that, because I know, as we've talked about and kind of given our witness, suffering kind of is fertile soil for new growth, which is what you're in now. So
yeah. Meeting you as a parent, right, and having the honor to teach your son, and into just the background of my administrative time there. I had accepted a administrative role, and then COVID hit, and it does come with an administrative role does come with decision making and being on the same page of all your team in that case, right? And me growing up out west, a small town farm, I'd say I had a difference of opinion on the nature of our reaction to many of the COVID protocols, and I was pretty quiet about it, nothing in your face about it. And I want to respect what you have and understand what you're going through, but at the same time, I really wasn't willing to back down on what I felt was to be right, and so really it really did come down to my participation in the holy sacrifice of the Mass. That was it. And I wasn't willing to do some of the things that they were asking us to do within that time of Mass. Now, on the school side, This is my role. This is my job. Okay. But really, when it came to me attending Mass in the fullest form and entering into that sacrifice, I wasn't willing to contradict that or go against that. And so, it was a moment where several meetings were had, but at the end of the day, I knew God was going to take care of my family. He's going to take care of me. I was going to stand on the ground. This was the hill I was going to die on, in the sense of I'm not going along with this. And I mean, we're seeing the effects of it. We'll see the effects of the actions for many, 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 many years, or decision making in many, many years. And again, not to know, put anybody in a place of authority at that time is no easy task. To recognize what goes behind the scenes is not always what we see, to really understand the decision making. So to no fault of theirs, but it was something I was not going to put the mask on, right? I was not going to hide my face in the moment of celebrating the Eucharist. And so I did choose to quietly leave, and went back to farming, doing construction work for a year. And it was tough. It was tough because my passion was education. My passion was children. And when you're covering yourself, it's very hard when we are relational beings to teach a child that needs to be behind that screen or behind that line or behind whatever the things that we did to say it was out of protection, right? And so I went to construction, and then after construction, I went right into public education. And at that time, we were still dealing with, a couple years of protocols, whatever they may be. But because it was public education, I still had the ability to go to Mass and be who I was face to face with God in that moment, right? And so that experience of public education was eye-opening to get me to reflect on the state of education as a whole, right? As a whole, and just articulate some things. So when I came to this point in my life of my educational career of what is classical education, it really opened my mind and my heart to a fullness of education. So I talked about the fullness of truth within my own faith. I would say there's a conversion of mine of education and educational practices and fullness of education that I was discovering as well. So God knew what was happening. He did take that sufferings. It was not easy to make that decision, to know that I saw myself being in that school forever. I really did. And I loved the people. I loved the families. I loved the administration, and the community itself. However, it was a decision that, my wife and I were like, this is something that I will be unhappy this whole entire year, and it will play an effect on my family. And so when I look at what was I able to, gain out of it, it was that freedom. But it didn't come without the sacrifice and sufferings.
Well, it's just fascinating to me. I love these stories because in life, I say we're in a spiritual battle. In life, these things come to you all the time. Sometimes they're very small and insignificant, seemingly. Sometimes they're really big decisions where you have to decide whether you're going to follow your conscience and be true to yourself, or whether you're going to do, maybe just do a little something that you don't think is right, but you got all these other attachments that make you do that. And so I just think it's such a good witness for men that when you choose, there's going to be consequences.
Yep.
That's never going to be free. And that there's such fertile soil to trust. The trust that it requires is such fertile soil for new growth. And so not to be afraid of maybe the world tearing down your false preconceptions and trusting that God will build you up the way he wants you to be. I just love that witness. So thank you for that.
And my feeling on this is that the example you set was you took honor, you were honorable in the way that you did it, and you gave dignity to the institutions that you left. A lot of people aren't emotionally mature enough to do that, and you maintain your dignity, and you did what you needed to do with honor, and that should be commended.
Thank you. But to your point, it was hard, right? I was leaving something that I truly believed in, but
I'm sure there was some anger involved and frustration and all those human things that I just want people to know my story.
And that was probably it. That's probably you as a parent. It was like, what happened? Because there probably wasn't much shared about why I was leaving, right? And that wasn't the intent of it. But
It was beautiful. You were able just to go silently into the good night and without any disturbance in the force and reappear, remade Gandalf the White.
Yeah. And that's funny. That's kind of like the next time I crossed paths
Sure,
with
it
him.
was.
He's
Yeah.
Gandalf the White.
Oh goodness.
I'm at, things continued on the course they were on,
Yeah.
and we got to a point where we made a decision that we were going to start going to St. Peter's.
Yeah.
And I'm in St. Peter's Mass, and I look across the way, and lo and behold, there's Will Durant over there. And so I, after Mass, get up and go over there and give him a big hug and like, what are you doing over here? And then we reconnect and just kind of like the school idea keeps kind of coming through. He's starting to create it. So we had some conversations about it, and I'm just fascinated by it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, again, another wonderful community that we were able to be a part of, that the Lord, drew us to. And my kids ended up going to that Catholic school. And, but then for me coming into Mass and looking over, it was like, that's Marco. What do you know, and reconnecting with you.
Yeah.
It was just one of those God moments of, I think you were there because you had family there, and we were attracted to the freedom that we had there during a time of turmoil, right?
Yeah.
And so it was that same kind of like, hey, there's Marco,
Yeah.
that familiar face when you spent your whole time. And I wasn't from the area around the school, so we commuted to my first Catholic school there that I taught at. And so when you see that familiar face, it's just like that re-welcoming. It's like the prodigal son, the embrace of the Father. You just see that face when you went through something and you knew that person, but to see, I wasn't the only one, fighting an interior spiritual battle there, and that embrace. Yes.
Yeah. And then you start talking about this new idea for a new school, and people from that parish were kind of collecting around you, and just talk about the genesis of that.
Oh, wow. I mean, God's hand in it all. So the school that I currently serve as principal at, St. John Paul II Independent Catholic School, it's a bit of a mouthful. However, just the beauty of even the intentionality of the name came and was revealed to us after. And so I can mention that in a little bit, but like-minded community found there within St. Peter's, and that's where we started to find each other and be like, hey, I got this idea, and hey, you had this idea, and seeds were planted in several hearts. And so from that moment, those people that just had these seeds planted of education, of kind of fighting back a little bit between what is right and what is true, what is good and what is beautiful, right? Finding those elements, it brought us together. And Marco, you were one of those on our originally like idea board, I'll call them, right? So we came together, and they were members of that community.
Marco was?
Marco was.
You didn't ask me.
I was. And I got attacked. I tend to be like, I am a target for spiritual attack every time I try to say yes.
And you know what? On that original idea board, you yourself, my wife and I, we have 2 daughters. One of those daughters ended up being in the hospital all during this time, several times, ongoing seizures, and we attribute her health back to the Blessed Mother. And I can talk about that too. But one of the other members, her husband, died during that time. It was spiritual attack after spiritual attack on many of us of that original board. And one gentleman, he passed away that was on that original idea board. And so we knew we were going down the right path when we were being attacked, because that is something the devil likes to do. He likes to take something, he sees what's good, and he'll attack that. He wants to draw you away from that through these sufferings. But for us, it was a moment to deepen our foot in the ground and say, we're gonna continue onward, because we know this is what the Lord has for us. And so Marco was on that original idea board, and through those attacks, we survived. This would have been August, September of 2021. Okay. And we persevered. There were times where we had moments of nothing within our board at that time, and all the way to April of 2022. Okay. Of getting new members on. And this would be what I would call the founding board members, into opening school in August of 2022 with families that were just like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. They were like-minded families through the turmoil. So I say it's the silver lining of COVID that opened our eyes to the state of education, to the state of the things that we were encountering within the culture as well, right? And so we had 16 families join us that first year. And as I mentioned, that first year we had a consecration to our Blessed Mother, a 33-day consecration, Marian devotion, that really got us through that first year. And from that moment, we just opened year 5, and we went from starting out with 16 families and 41 kids. Now we're at 44 families and 95 kids in year 5. And that's where Marco and I, again, just rekindled in that beginning of this idea that our children deserve better than what we're giving them. And what is that? Well, let's discover it. And it's rooted in the Catholic faith, and it's rooted in the tradition of Western civilization, of traditional education and the great books. So it's something that we've gone back to as a school community. And since then, going from that idea board to the founding board to now a sustaining board, we see new members come on that are active, and now our role is building a school, funding a school. And so every year's been a complete trust in God. The first 2-3 years making budget, but then growing that to now we have extra. We need to be planning for where's the school going to lay her head, right? And just earlier in the year, January of 2026 here, purchasing property, right? And having no debt in that through the generous donors and what the Lord's put on their heart to help us in this mission. And so now we're on the next big trust of raising money to build a school, because we're busting at the seams where we're at, and we need a building, and we need to be on property on campus with this vision of education. So it's all from the very beginning, just complete trust in God that this is yours. It's not any of ours. Yes, there's been a lot of hands that have helped make it come about. Yes, I played a role in my leadership as the first principal, and we have our founders, but really we attribute this is the Lord's, and I can't take credit for what the Lord's doing through me. And so to continue to operate and say, this is yours. It's yours to succeed. It's yours to fail. You just use me in it. And that complete trust. If it's going to fail, then what I've become better out of it because of you, right? If it's going to succeed, we are better out of it because of you. And it's just that complete trust, right? This is his, and he's going to let it continue to grow and flourish. And it's through those struggles that my wife and I went through during those times of complete trust in the Lord to say, I'm not returning. And this was August. There was no teaching jobs open in August. So that's why, back to farm work, back to farm labor, running dump trucks scenario. Mm-hmm. Then knowing the Lord wants me in education. So I'm back in education, and yikes, the state of education to let's do something different. Right.
That's awesome.
Does the school receive any support from Support for Catholic Schools? It's an organization I donate money to.
The answer is no.
Have you inquired?
We receive support through a different organization called Cornerstone.
Okay.
It is the same scholarship granting organization that Support Catholic Schools is set up as. Okay. So it is you support for Catholic schools through your tax dollars. We are partnered with Cornerstone that does the same for donors. Mm-hmm. And then those tax dollars go to the school through scholarships for qualifying students.
I'm a big supporter in what you all are trying to do. And so when we're done, I'd like to talk to you about that, because whether it's engaging a scholarship for a child or multiple children, because they're families that, when you're outside of the tithing stewardship program, it's a serious commitment.
It is.
And I believe in what you're doing. I've seen another private school here. I had my youngest child go to school outside of the Catholic school system, and I saw what being a customer looks like. After having that experience, I thought, well, the Catholic schools are the customer. Once I saw how this relationship worked, I felt like they teach a love of learning I've never seen. This classical education is so beautiful, and what you're doing is combining all of that, and it's a blessing to this area. I just hope it catches on.
Yeah, it is, and even our diocese here is catching on, right? And it's good because it's what's good for the kids.
Let's go. Those people that are going to come out of your organization are going to be the future leaders in all the Catholic communities around. They're going to have the kind of faith that you were brought up in, and layered on with the orthodoxy of the traditions.
Yes.
Let's get into the school and what you
Sure.
guys do there. I came to your open house, the new property,
Yep.
absolutely beautiful, just like unbelievable. Then I'm
Yeah.
walking around, so impressed by the property and like the information boards you guys have, what you're doing, the community piece with the parents. I'm like, I want to come to a
Yeah.
dance class.
Yeah.
I want to come to I want to come to school here. Is the way I walked away from that thinking. I want to learn how to build what all the different, like the carpentry things and just all the stuff you had going on. So maybe just kind of talk about the school.
Yeah, and it's going to go back to our mission as a school, our mission statement. And within it, I'm not going to recite it because it's quite long, but it really highlights the purpose of our school is for the community, it's for the family, it's for the students. And so it's all, that purpose. So what you're talking about there, we have things that we're doing with the kids, but then we want to educate the parents. We want to open that same exposure to the Western tradition to parents as well. And so, yeah, we've had this summer open houses because, like I mentioned, we're raising money to build a school so we can be out there full time. In the meantime, we're in a rental space and we're busing kids back and forth between the school space and our rental space, making it work this year with the intention of having a full K-8 school out there next year. That's our goal. And it's taken a lot of people to continue forward with making that, helping us get that financial side piece of things. That's important too, right? So the school itself, our new property that you came to was a gift, complete gift, and it comes with a wonderful story. And so every year our kids have a showcase, an evening where they showcase what they've learned, what they've recited, the beautiful poetry, acting out Shakespeare, to singing, to chanting Latin, sharing astronomy or insect studies, nature studies, just all types of things that the kids have learned throughout the year. And that the theme of that showcase that year was chosen Feast of St. Joseph the Worker, May 1st. Okay. And St. Joseph, 33 days before that, as a school community, we got materials. We had our little school map, a little St. Joseph consecration for families that we did as a school community. And May 1st was consecration day. And on that very same day, I had a colleague out of Hutchinson come down, and she's like, "Hey, can I see your school? I would love to see it." I was like, "It's not a great day. We got all this stuff going on. We're building sets, and it's show day." And so I was like, "I got about 40 minutes here in this section of time." So she comes down, and I take her through the school. And at the time, we were located in Colwich, wonderful community that was opening to us. And we rented a small house because we needed more space. We were growing. And she came down and just saw everything we were doing and was like, "This is awesome." Okay. So fast forward to the evening, I was headed up the stairs to go get the kids ready to say it's showtime. And I get a message from her. And it's like, "Hey, I got the perfect property in mind for you." And it was the property that we bought. It was the property that came to us on the Feast of St. Joseph after doing a 33 days consecration of St. Joseph. And so we have from that moment, it's like this property came about because of St. Joseph.
You give me goosebumps because there's nothing more true in the world than what you're describing. 33 days, consecration. St. Joseph is the one that would do something like that. And I mean, this is the truth that the world misses. They just don't get this. So go on. I just love it.
And so it took from May 1st to September to get an agreement, a purchase agreement of that property. It took from then September to January 2nd to close on that property to secure the funds. And with every major milestone, it came with on a day for a saint day, a feast day. And one of the donors, I can remember walking away, we asked all the donors, "What's your patron saint?" And that donor shared the saint of impossible causes, right? And so here we were, like, this
St.
is
Jude.
This is it. This is impossible without God, without the intercession of these saints. And so from that point, closing to opening up to our families for the very first time, of having the building blessed, walking the property and having a priest come and bless the property, we did a whole litany of saints, the very saints that we collected from the donors that helped purchase the land. We collected their patron saint. And so we prayed and we did a whole walking and put Benedictine medals in each of the corner of that property. And this property is devoted to our Blessed Mother through the intercession of St. Joseph and to the saints that made it be about. That this isn't any of our doing. It's definitely his. And so since then, we have had ownership for maybe 6 or 7 months now, and from when you came, it was pretty rough. And St. Joseph the Worker is also appropriate because it needed a lot of work. And here we are. We've got a community that has designated their time to doing the work. And so at the same time, we had that going on. I was working on another grant. And I'll tell you, Marco, English is not my best. Grammar, absolutely not. Spelling, no. I was growing up, we didn't have phonics. We had whole reading. And so that my reading, I had to do all the classes growing up of all the extra reading. And so I cannot stand to write. And somehow I keep finding myself in this moment of writing these big applications, right? So come last fall, I completed an application through an organization here called Vela, wonderful organization, offshoot of the Coke industry. And so through the Vela organization, did a multi-step a grant with the intention of growing our common art, what we call our common arts department, which is the works of our hands, in addition to the liberal arts, which is the shaping the intellect, and then the fine arts shaping the soul, right? All three of them, how they form the whole human person. And so wrote this grant, and it was lengthy. Anyways, we received word at the beginning of the year that we were awarded a $100,000 grant. That then we are right now, tomorrow, pouring concrete. We are, as dads, coming and building this greenhouse. This is community. This is we are coming together, bringing our young boys to be a part of it, and we are erecting this greenhouse for the school kids. That we are going to grow things year round. We are going to teach them the love of work, the exposure to what is good, true, and beautiful. And so in addition to the greenhouse, we've got animal livestock on campus that the kids are taking care of. They learn to cook, sew, preserve, in addition to reading good literature. One of the books they were reading last year, the main character was a high tanner. Well, what better way to read about this in imaginative literature and then have one of the 8th grade boys bring in a deer hide that he shot and killed, and we're scraping that deer hide and we're tanning it, and then we're turning that deer hide into leather projects that we're learning to sew. Right. So the connection of the common arts to the liberal arts, some of it is rote memorization. We talked about that. And there's a purpose and place and time for that, but it can't all just be that.
So you use the work of the hands like carpentry to teach math and geometry.
Oh, yes. That's that real life application. Now, is it always like all planned out that way? No, it's so much open, especially in our foundation of the workings of the Holy Spirit. These are things of the Holy Spirit. But, we have our own beehives, okay? The perfect shape. A circle, but the beehives with their shape of the hexagons there, to the creation of the honey, that we harvest the honey, we sell the honey, we take the wax, we make lip balm. We learn to care for God's creation, and then how does that serve our community? And so the real life application, does it come as easy as that? No, but it is so open to the Holy Spirit to work within us to see that real life application. But sometimes you don't point it out, but you lead it out of the children. You let them discover it. You don't just race to the point and tell them this is the answer. Let's let them find the answer and guide, as adults, guide them to that. Because sometimes we know with some of our children, I can think of one of mine, that if I just tell him it, he's going to do the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
And so if you lead it out of them, to lead out a child, wonder, Aristotle said this, wonder leads to wisdom, right? Begin in wonder. So with our children, the things we do, we want them to wonder. And then wisdom leads to that contemplation. And so that is the basis of our school and the school community. So it takes a team to do it. We have wonderful people that have made it possible. And every one of them has their own story of how God got them involved into this. And the reason being, because the Lord wants to see something happen through our works to have an impact on the other schools around, of teaching the truths that we can discover, and for education as a whole, right?
Yeah. Man, right now I'm like trying to advise kids on college and majors. And I think in terms like what you're talking about, it excites me so much as an intellectual man who likes to learn, was good at school, went to engineering school, went to business school, but always was left empty with all of that, because it was just, you're learning from a book.
Yeah.
That's the idea of getting your fingers into it.
Yeah.
And discovering where you want to go with it is so appealing to me. And so when my girls are trying to figure out what they're going to major in college, and I'm like, college just teaches you how to be an employee. Like there's an entrepreneurial aspect to it as well, that imagining, wondering, creating. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My family that came here from Mexico, they were upholsterers. So my grandpa had a big upholstering business and always did well. And his sons learned that trade from him. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Didn't know how to do it. I always had one friend that was saying, what can you do? You're smart enough to do something. You need to do something. And I was so locked in the structure of go to college, get the job, go work for the company, that I was like, I can't do anything. It's too big, So I just love the seeds that you're planting, making boys into good, virtuous young men, and honoring the work of their hands is so important. I just love that.
And, you point that out. I have 5 sons. And so this becomes so important to me with the young men that we have. I get a lot of parents that come, majority of them with boys, and they see how good this can be for their son. Now, as I tell them, there is a time to teach them. Yes, we have to sit, we have to be attentive, we have to sit behind a desk, we have to learn to take notes. These are good habits and skills that are also taught. However, there's also time to run, to climb a tree, to sharpen a stick, right? And so for young boys, they need that balance, proper balance, right? They have that extra energy. So let's harness that for good, right? Let's not just retain them to a desk and then send them to the principal's office when they can't sit there, because that's against their human nature, right? And so if we can create a model that is a balance of that, then we are shaping their hearts, their heads, their minds. And that's a comment by Christopher Hall, who came up with the common arts idea. That then what are those young men going on to become? Successful fathers. And there's a booklet that really changed my own fatherhood, my own instruction of young boys. It's called Successful Fathers by James Stenson, I believe. And it's about the role of the father and generational curses of wounds of the father, right? And so I look at my role as being father to my sons, and what do I want that to be? Because whatever wounds I give them, they're going to move on to give their children, and it's going to be generational. So what spiritual bonds can I break there so my children go on to be successful fathers or successful in their vocation? And this is something that all of our young men need. They need good role models. And I have 2 stellar male teachers that are that model in education. And it's not often that you see them in the lower grades, and it's so important to have them in the lower grades because it is recognizing how God created male and female different, right? And the beauty of the feminine genius and the beauty of the masculine genius, right? There's a place for both. And it is instructing them in creation of what that looks like, right? And so setting up with working with great families, great models of the faith, great models of St. Joseph and Mary, to then imitating that within the school day, and then building on that with the nature of the child, of how God's created them. And I worked with this on my staff. Like this year, that was something I worked heavy on, was the nature of the human child. Because if we can understand a philosophical lens, not anything like, whoa, way up there, but really a very natural lens of a child, and we see them being jittery, we don't just keep them at the desk. We need to get them moving, right? We need to give them something because if then they're not going to focus, and they're not going to take anything from you. If you don't have the relationship with the child, they're not going to receive anything from you. So that relationship, that understanding of them helps them blossom, especially as young men. They need that. They need to be encouraged to do something.
And to think big. What impressed upon me when I was growing up was the great adventure stories. King Arthur and the Round Table.
Yes.
Swiss Family Robinson.
Yes.
Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Louis L'Amour. Insert the name of great adventures, quests.
Yeah.
Teaching honor. Louis L'Amour books taught me more about right, wrong, justice, and being an honorable man than anything I learned in school. And it was at a time in my life when I had a dad that was impressing upon me all the great values and characteristics to be a man. I had, unbeknownst to him, these books that were impressing the same characteristics upon me. And I didn't know it at the time. I just thought these were just stories. You know, you read the Odyssey, or you read some of these, King Arthur and the Round Table, and you know, I didn't know that, you know, some of this was very sinful. It was just bad, and you know, but there's meaning in all of that.
There is. And those are the very books in which we utilize in the classroom. And if there's one piece of advice that I give, and I give every year to our young families, our young dads, is read to your child every night and read them a book that's on the good book list. John Sr. Was professor at KU for a long time. He started the integrated humanities program there. Huge influence on my own understanding of classical education. And he had compiled this great books, 1,000 great books. And so for you as the father to choose one of those books of adventure, like you're saying, Robin Hood, King Arthur.
It's amazing. It gets the imagination.
And then, like you said, it teaches them virtue formation,
Yes.
right there, of right and wrong. And this is something kids can lack, right? They don't have a concept of right and wrong because they haven't been taught right from wrong. And so with that, that's my biggest piece of advice is for dad. It's great for mom to read, yes, but for the father to read to their children at night. And the kids will remember it forever, right?
And enunciate words and give life to the words on the page, and be emotional about it.
Yes.
And the kids see that, and you can just see their eyes. They're just they're excited, and then they're sad, and then what's going to happen next, Dad? What?
Yep.
That's living right
I
there.
can recall reading Little House on the Prairie series to my children. This has been probably 5 or 6 years ago when we were reading that series, and just everything that came out of that. The next thing you know, they're out there playing in the yard, Little House on the Prairie. They're all dressed up. That's Ma, that's Pa, and they're having the best time of their life, you know. And it's those moments that I like. This is worth it. This is worth it. It's hard, you know, as fathers, that, you know, sometimes we get home from work and we are deadbeat tired. We don't got it in us, right? Or it's hard because we've got littles that are running around and sitting on people, all the things.
And mom needs a break.
Yeah, and the saint of the household, absolutely, right? Of this is a role, I got to step up. I'm going to read. Mom's going to go find a moment by herself, or sometimes it's just doing something on her own for that moment in time, that 30 minutes, right before bedtime. And then the kids are engaged and they love it because dad's reading to them. And becomes the routine. So when dad doesn't read to them, they remind me, right? They remind me. But it can be hard. And I'm guilty of that, of missing those moments of, it's been a little while since we read something. Summer gets busy. Our nights are different. You know, all the excuses, all the attacks of outside world, from all the different activities that could pull us apart as the family. And this is where I'm also very intentional within my own family is, you know, the world's taken an attack on the family. How does it do that? Well, we need all these different sporting events, and there's nothing wrong with sports by any means. But when I'm running here and I'm running there, suddenly we don't have family dinner time. We're not sitting around a table.
You can't go to mass.
Hearing poetry being read to them. They're not hearing stories being shared, right? There is an attack on the family, and we've got to, as JP2 said, hence the family goes, so does the world. So the role of the family, we got to recapture. What is that role? And we got to reestablish it within our own households.
It's not to raise Division I athletes.
No,
do you know how many families think because my kid plays organized this sport that they're going to go and get a scholarship, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's hard telling my kids, we're not playing ball this summer because that's a lot of gas, that's a lot of running, that's a lot of, it's hard. But also I've got 7 kids, so they're playing ball. They're playing ball in the backyard, and that's the childhood I grew up with, was neighborhood ball, right? And that's something I still think about that we don't have anymore.
Well, I thought that was interesting when he interviewed your dad. He said he didn't even touch a basketball until his junior year in high school, and a lot of the old, back in the day, great players a lot of times would never come in contact with organized sports until much later on.
And their parents didn't even watch them play in the games, let alone go to practice. It's common for a parent to go to a practice and critique the practice and to watch the practice. I mean, the kids can't go anywhere anymore at these sporting events. We had a no sports in summer rule, and I'm a sports family. I went to college on a basketball scholarship. All my brothers and sisters, my dad did. And I wanted to go to the pool. I'm a pool rat. I wanted to take my kids and have recreational time. If you want to go to weights and conditioning, you can do that. But we're not on a traveling team to do boo, because I knew the infinitesimal probability of playing sports in college. And it takes a special kid that you never have to ask, did you do your workout today? Because if you have to ask that to a kid, he isn't going to be in it. He isn't going to play that sport. Just like, hey, did you do your homework? Yeah. There's kids that you don't have to ask, and there's kids you do. And that intrinsic motivation are the ones that are going to be successful on their own.
Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance there.
There is.
Because we spend a lot of time with Father Lawrence Carney, and he goes around preaching about the holy face of Jesus, but he's also the priest that walks the streets of Wichita. And when you think back to Jesus Christ himself, he was a carpenter, and he was a walking missionary. He walked everywhere. So again, it gets back to this masculine model of any man can relate to a lot of your most difficult problems or your aha solutions. So much of your greatest thinking comes about when you're walking. You're on a walk, or you're working on something, and you get an inspiration. So the value of moving and thinking coming together, so important for men. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, if anybody gets an opportunity that's watching this that wants to have a better understanding of the Holy Face devotion, we have other podcasts devoted to that. And we had Father Bernie Georges that was here, and his congregation was, and he wasn't very aware of that devotion. And the second Saturday of every month, there is a pilgrimage from Seneca Park to Naftzger Park with a replica of Veronica's veil and a candle, and we pray in Latin. And, all those Western Sedgwick County families, the salt of the earth families, this is their thing. I just wish more people would know about this, and it's beautiful. And the small group that attends really gets a lot out of it.
And we love it. I love it because I'm like, we're out here doing work together with other men and other families. We're carrying this veil that's been touched, the actual veil, in the Vatican. And then when you reflect on, you've got all these dads coming to pour concrete and build a greenhouse. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to get together with men and pray and work for a common goal.
And we have such just a great, it doesn't feel like work because you're surrounded by people you enjoy being around, and they're people who are building you up rather than tearing you down, right? Actually, Father Carney, he came out to the school year one to give his devotion story to the school kids, and just that exposure to them, I mean, I think again helped set us on this trajectory to where we've gotten to today. And integrating the Latin, our kids learn Latin, and then integrating it into our morning prayer time with Prime through the Benedictine order, just there's so much there in those devotions and the devotion of Holy Face of how it's to lead us closer to Christ on a very real, easy, not easy, I'll say that, not easy, but on a real, very real way. This is obtainable for those that aren't like, I'm not a theologian, right? I'm a convert, and it's way ahead of me or above me, but on a very real basis for the common man to be able to just join in communion with other men. And we're going to pray this, and you'll start to see that the roots take effect in your life.
Yeah, I love what he says. Devotion makes your heart grow more tender towards what you're devoted to. And I've experienced that in the 33 days to the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the Holy Face, to St. Joseph consecration. All of those things just make your heart grow more tender. They make you, and beyond that, when your heart grows more tender, you contemplate more and you take on the characteristics of what you're devoted to. Like all of a sudden you start to think in terms of those devotions, which kind of transforms you into an image of what you're devoted to, is what I have found. So it's beautiful. Well, I think that's good, unless you have anything else you want to get out there that I'm missing.
Oh, goodness.
Is there any place that is anybody that has any interest at all in funding or supporting JP2?
We'll definitely drop links in the
episode. We have our website. We have our website, and we have a whole page on what we're doing on property level wise, and the bigger vision of the liberal arts and the fine arts and the common arts. And, I'm after, I mentioned we have livestock, and I'm wanting to grow that, our greenhouse. I want to put an orchard in. this draws community together to pick their own fruit, right? We do meat chickens, and the kids learn how to butcher chickens, and I want it to be community wise. So there are a lot of things that we're not there yet, but getting out there, building a school is what right now our priority is. Those funds that we're looking to raise, and so on our website, you can find all about from the curriculum that we utilize and the partnership that we have with the ICLE, the Institute of Catholic Liberal Education. All defines what we're doing, why we're doing it, and we're always looking for new community sponsors that you want to see change happen. And here's an opportunity for you to get involved in that change, right? And so I invite you to join us in that we're still in that capital campaign of ours of raising those funds, getting those donors to continue to bless the community, but to continue to be open to the Lord working through each one of us, because it's part of the story, our own story. And someday when I look back and say, I was a part of that, the Lord chose me to be a part of that, how humbling that is, right? So that's on our website. I'd love to share it with you guys.
We'll
and
put it
get
in the comments.
And thank you again for inviting me to be on. Just speak about this masculine heart, these ways in which we can devote our lives, our families to our Lord through the intercession of our Blessed Mother, Saint Joseph, the devotion of the Holy Face. That we continue to ask the Lord to work through each one of us in the vocations that He's given us.
Bravo, Will. Godspeed.
I'm so excited about this. So excited about Will. I just hope that anything we can do to help you, we'll keep doing it.
That's great. That's great.